recorded live.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 714. My name is Eric Nelson, and with me today I have my regular co-host, Bob Plankers. Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. Bob, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Whether I'm regular or not, boy, that's a whole different topic. But normal, all that stuff. But it's great. There's snow falling in the Midwest, lots of it, and so excited to be here. Excited to talk about all kinds of stuff today. So.
Yeah, grinding through February. You know, the winter weather is upon us. Even in it's been 30 degrees. Yeah, everything's going. We got another storm coming through the Bay Area, so we're going to get like an inch and a half, 2 inches of rain today, this afternoon, this evening, through tomorrow. So winter is here, and just grinding through it. Christmas is over. These are always the months that I don't like, Bob. It's like Christmas is happy over. Unless I go skiing in Tahoe, there isn't much going on.
My neighborhood, you couldn't tell that Christmas is over. People are still running their Christmas lights, which bugs me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it's just me getting older, get off my lawn sort of attitude, but we're almost it's almost Valentine's Day.
You know what happened? The LED light bulbs are so energy efficient now. The reality is there's no reason to turn them off.
Keeping people, it
used to be a power bill would
that is the answer,
to make you turn them off come the week after Christmas. You're like, okay.
They also don't melt snow, which is a problem, but depends on how much snow and ice you get. But anyhow.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, on the show today, we're going to be talking to Garesh, who is a cloud solutions product manager at Broadcom here, and we're going to be talking to him about what the cloud vendors have to do to accept VCF and get going with VCF like the rest of us. So we got him on the show, but before we do that, we'll do a drive-by to Corey Romero and talk vExperts. I know he's in the thick of it. Corey, how's it going?
Going great. Woke up and headed to work this morning. It was -4 degrees. And I'm sorry, Bob, but as long as there's snow on the ground, the lights are on.
You're one of those guys, huh?
One of those guys.
I'm one of those guys.
If it was -4 outside, I wouldn't take my lights down either. I'd be like, I'll wait. I hope it gets a lot warmer.
You can't shut them off.
You can't turn them. You can't take them down. They're all encased in ice.
They're iced in. They're iced in.
Yeah.
Nice. So I don't think I have much news. What's you're in the thick of the vExpert app, so you're gonna hit next Monday or then next week sometime?
Yes, it's going to be next week sometime. We're going to got to go through compliance. So I'm hoping to reach out to compliance by tomorrow, and with a name, with a list of the approved vExperts, and then announce next week.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right. Well, that's excited. I know for people that have showed up to the podcast, Bob, we talked about this earlier. We had a couple different false starts on what we were going to talk about today. At first, we're going to talk about AI and some of the private AI stuff, but we got asked to delay some of that, and then we flipped over to quantum computing and quantum security, and then we got asked to delay some of that. And so now we got Grish here. We're just going to talk about the cloud adoption, at the partner ecosystem. So stay tuned. We'll get to all those topics in the future, but we have to align to what the business unit wants to announce when. So some of that's still under the covers, I think.
Yeah, sorry about the switch, but
cloud
stuff is really interesting. There's a lot of cloud service providers that use vSphere and VCF and that people don't realize. And actually, that's a really interesting. I've only seen the tip of the iceberg. I think I'd like to get into that a little bit. But
as we get into the news, a little bit of news, a little bit of my perspective, and my perspective is always changing, Bob, as I educate myself on VCF. Frankie Berrigan had another Tuesday VMware Code Learn VCF session, which is great. They did that. A couple London guys, Graham, and a couple others were on that call. I think they had about 800 people register for it, and maybe 140 show up, that's par for the course. So did a great session on Tuesday, and I believe they record those. So if you want to come up to speed with study habits for how to pass your VCP-VCF cert, so that you can get your home lab license from a VMUG Advantage. We're doing that. Connect is going live. They've got sessions up on Connect now. We got a full agenda. I think we got a couple open slots left that we're slotting into partners, but that's coming together. So that's going to be exciting. End of April, going to be a lot of fun. Hawk's going to be there. Frank Denman's going to be there. Chris McCain's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Corey's going to be there. Bob Planker's going to be there. He just doesn't know it yet. And
I'm working on it. Actually, I'm working on it. So.
And 60 different community leaders are also going to be there. So they're doing a community leadership training. So if you want to come out and hang out with your fellow IT participants from a community perspective, St. Louis, the 23rd, 24th, 25th is going to be a lot of fun. I think they're keeping the price. If you get VMUG Advantage, or if you have VMUG Advantage membership, which is $200 a year, you get it for $375, something like that. So it's under $400 for the conference for 3 days, and they're going to have party. They're going to have food. It's going to be your $300. You're going to get your $300 back out of the event, and it's in St. Louis. Hotels are reasonable, and it's always cheap to fly or drive into St. Louis from the Midwest. So excited about that. I know we're flying in community members from Europe. We got some people from a couple of people from Germany, somebody from Brazil. We got some other people coming in. So a big collection of community. People ask me what's the difference between Explore and Connect in St. Louis. This is a community event, right? So most of the sessions are going to be community. We do have some product managers there for VCF track. There's 4 different tracks, but it's going to have a community vibe to it. So Frank Denman opening, doing the keynote, right? Like it's more of a community. We're going to have birds of a feathers on the Wednesday afternoon on topics where pass the mic around and let everybody talk on the topics, and then we're going to have some of the product guys there to answer questions and try to field those conversations. If you've ever done birds of a feathers, they're really fun because it's just an open community conversation. That's Wednesday afternoon, party Wednesday evening, kickoff keynotes and everything Thursday morning. So ideally you can do 2 nights in a hotel and and get out of there Friday afternoon and have a great event with a party, and depends on whether you want to throw snowballs, or it's going to be April, no more snow, but it should be a good time there. And then my personal news, Bob, is that I've been working on the home lab machine, right? Getting VCF on the Nook. And honestly, William Lamb has been doing most of the heavy lifting. We've been buying machines. So first we bought a 32 gig machine. Yeah, that didn't work. We tried. It was a little thin. It has 24 cores, so that's the minimum requirement for VCF. You gotta have enough cores to run all the hypervisor. But the problem is the install process requires a certain amount of memory just to get the installer to do all the things it needs to do. And that's a struggle, right? So we're bumping it up to 64 gig. The problem with a lot of the Nooks nowadays is they don't have SIMs anymore. They do the Apple trick where they solder on the memory right onto the motherboard.
Surface mounted,
So we thought we'd just be able to easily, I got a power warning. My plug came out. I gotta plug this in or we're gonna disappear.
No, I get what you're saying. It's just it's tough. That's actually my lab environments. I actually went with full desktop machines. I've got space to run that and stuff because you've got the DIMMs and such. So it's tricky. We lost your video there, Eric. He'll be back. So anyhow, VMUG Connect should be a lot of fun. Like Eric said, I'm trying to be there. Some of my colleagues will be there as well, and from technical marketing and whatnot. So, Girish, why don't we get into what we want to talk about with you, cloud service providers? But before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I think glad to be a part of this podcast. I think this is my second or third time different topics, cool. Right? So a little bit about me. I've been with VMware Broadcom about 18 years. More than half of my professional life is with or on the VMware platform, and happy for that. Given me a great opportunities to learn and basically have conversations with a lot of customers, right from VI 3.0 and vCenter Server 2.5 to where we are going today. Fortunate to be a part of VCF engineering team at the beginning, right at the inception, I can say that. And then basically now from last 4 5 years, I've been a part of CSP team. We used to call it as a VCPP team. My
Okay.
main charter is to really focus on helping build new solutions powered by VMware products before
Cool.
acquisition. Now everything is powered by VCF, and I will talk more about them as well, what those solutions are.
And CSP stands for
Cloud service providers,
excellent.
and they are
Yeah, there's a
global.
lot of. Yeah, tell us more about that. Like what's I get the sense that there's a lot of vSphere sort of hidden from folks in places. Can you tell us more about what cloud
Yeah,
service
yeah,
providers are, what they do, and what they're doing?
absolutely, Bob. I think you just kind of hit the right point here that I wanted to cover. So typically, if you go on to any of our providers' website, they will deliver various services. For example, dedicated private cloud, shared cloud, managed private cloud. And then on top of that, they will have additional services like load balancer as a service, firewall as a service, Kubernetes as a service. Now we are talking about private AI as a service, and on top of
Cool.
that, they will have additional stuff going on, right? So essentially, a consumer will not really know what is it running on. So it is running on a VMware platform. Some providers, they will call it out as a VMware as a service. Some provider will call it as a VCF as a service. So depending on how they really brand themselves for those services, but they all are powered by VMware platform and products and solutions.
Do they use a lot of we have a product, I know things are in transition in that, but I think of VMware Cloud Director as a popular one uh, along the line here. Is that still in play? Are a lot of these folks using that, or are they building their own interfaces for it, or is it a combination of all of that? How does that work?
Yeah, yeah. So I think the combination of all what you just mentioned, right? I think VMware Cloud Director is and has been mainly consumed by the CSPs. We call them as providers, uh, mainly for a reason of multi-tenancy feature that VCD has been there right from its inception. Fortunate again to be working with VCD 1.0 and now VCF 10.6. So it has evolved over a period of time, uh, specifically on networking, specifically on delivering more as a services. Some customers, some providers will write their own UI, their own portal, but underneath that they will execute all VCD APIs,
Oh,
right?
very cool.
So some of providers are like, okay, you give me the order, then I'll deliver you the cloud experience in couple of days. Some providers are like, okay, give me your credit card information. Once it is done, then you will get the number of hosts. Then you can say, once you have the number of hosts, what it is that you want from the menu, and then click, 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 and few hours your environment or your service is ready for consumption. So there's a mixed bag of providers delivering various services powered by our product, essentially, our products.
Yeah, that's really cool. And multi-tenancy, that's a really interesting thing. And it's a multi-tenancy isn't just a concept that's limited to service providers and that. There's a lot of organizations that like that as well. I know we've got plans, exciting stuff moving forward for some of that stuff. But from a cloud perspective, a cloud provider perspective, what do you think some of the biggest challenges are for cloud providers nowadays with a lot of this? You mentioned AI and that there's a lot of interest in AI from a multi-tenancy perspective.
Yeah. I think, as you probably know, provider business is basically to do more with little, right? Which what it means is that they want to invest into the technology, but they want to make sure that there is a right return on investment, and that is growing as a business as well, right? So they look for, if I have a server, how can I have more of my customers consuming underlying platform that I built for them, right? You can have customer A, B, C running on the cluster, and cluster could be 10 hosts or 20 hosts. Customer ABC doesn't really want to know, doesn't know how many hosts it is running on. As long as they get their compute, storage, and networking, they are okay and they're fine with that, right?
Yeah, to a point though, until they start getting asked about security and things, the isolation between environments is really important. The ignoring the underlying infrastructure is fun until you have to worry about that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I think another thing that VCD has done a great job of uh, adding a little bit more of a services aspects to it. Like for example, various plugins. So VCD as a product has a capacity or capability of plugins. Using those plugins, a provider can build their own service and create an easy way to consume that service for the customer, right? For example, Kubernetes as a service, right? Uh, can I have uh, backup as a service? Can I have DR as a service? So those are the various services are enabled through these kind of plugins very, very easily, right? And they are all multi-tenant. So whenever I'm using it, I'm making sure as a provider that they are keeping the data sovereignty, data locality for that particular customer appropriately. And again, around it, I can have my various rules surrounding it with DFW, gateway firewall. I can have load balancers in the environment. I can have web application firewall and so on and so forth. Kind of security aspects around the core infrastructure delivered with VCD as well or without VCD as well.
So yeah, NSX, the distributed firewall is absolutely cool. The ability to apply security at a very granular level. You mentioned that. So does VCD and all that, do these solutions, they sit on top of VCF now, or has it been kind of a roll your own thing for the cloud providers, or is it some combination of all of it?
Awesome question, right? So if you really look back, what is VCF today, right? Today it is a solution, right? So it is made up of vSphere, vSAN, NSX as my core components, right? These are still individual products, right? But the way they are deployed using Cloud Builder, they are deployed in a right architecture, right design, so you don't need to worry about it. So that's the beauty of VCF as a solution that providers are liking it. They say, you know what, I don't need to sweat about, hey, is that the design correct, am I doing the things correctly? It is all into the solution itself, and they like it. Again, the API, Cloud Builder APIs today are so powerful that they are able to what we call, they do the automation around our automation. So typically we say automate the automation. So we deliver an automation of VCF, but definitely they need to have other surrounding uh, packages or softwares like monitoring, alerting, what are they use in their environment, right? So they have to have all those integrated with VCF when they're deploying it and after deployment as well. So they build the environment in about 2.5 hours typically, and then hand it off to the customer. And then it goes not only VCF, but it goes with all bells and whistles to the customer for consumption.
And so all the bells and whistles, all of that stuff, the customer then has self-service. What is the customer getting then from this? Is it just, a blob of resources, or is it a provision environment, or again, some combination of all of that?
So if a provider is delivering dedicated private cloud, Then they will get all the compute, storage, and networking of minimum 4 hosts after they bring up. And then they will start deploying the VMs on Kubernetes clusters right on top of it, right? That's one thing without VCD, right? Again, there are two flavors. One is a customer managed environment and a provider managed environment. The
Okay,
key
yeah.
difference is that if I'm a provider and Bob is my customer, I'm going to go, Bob, give me the money and I'll give you the environment, right?
I get my credit card out. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then I hand off the keys to the kingdom to Bob, and Bob is my king, and he will do whatever he does. I don't really have to worry about it because Bob is managing it. He has all the credentials. He has all the access to the environment, including the life cycle of the stack that Bob will manage. That is
Oh, cool.
customer
Okay.
managed, right? So you are just paying me for the licenses and the hardware that you're using.
All right. But then it's all mine. I can, I can be reasonably assured there's not other organizations using it. It's secure. I know where it is in the
Mhm,
world. It's over in your
mhm.
data center somewhere,
Absolutely.
that sort of thing. That's pretty cool, actually.
And then there is a second one called as a provider managed. So Bob, you come to me, you slide your card and you say, okay, I don't have expertise, I don't have time, I just want to consume the environment. You manage everything for me. Life cycle, patching, security patches, day two operations. I'm just going to come to you, Girish, and say, hey, you know what? I need more capacity, add 2 more hosts. I will add that for you and say, hey, Bob, I'm done. There is a new capacity for you. So for
And that
you,
just shows up as my resources get bigger then.
exactly. You get more resources and you are focusing on a business, you are focusing on your applications,
Exactly.
not about infrastructure management. That is provider managed, right? But again,
Yeah, nice.
the example I gave you, it is more of a dedicated, right? Not a multi-tenant. Now, on top of it, when I have VCD, I have an ability to give you just a environment that you can deploy. It will be managed everything by me as a provider because I may have multiple customers on the same cluster or clusters or even workload domains, depending on how I slice and dice. It you don't see it. It is concealed from you, but I'm guaranteeing you the performance, I'm guaranteeing you the resources, and you are fine with that.
So on the back
So
end,
that's
then,
another option.
you mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so you mentioned workload domains on the back end. That's a VCF construct, the idea of management domain and workload domain, that sort of thing,
Yeah,
and being able to be flexible, have shared workload domains, I assume, and what you're talking about here, or a dedicated one for certain customers, and a VCF, or not VCF, VCD, Cloud Director manages all of that. That's something that a cloud provider
precisely.
can set up, and that's
Precisely,
cool.
precisely. I think I have a reference document which was published about a year or 2 years ago based on VCF 4.4 and VCD 10.5, I believe. It's still available. You can Google it and you will be able to see that architecture. So basically, VCF will do its job of deployment of the workload domains. On top of that, you deploy VCD, and then VCD will have an endpoint as a vCenter server of a workload domain, right?
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
now,
So,
go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
Now, VCF with 5.2 has a feature called as isolated workload domain. Essentially, we broke the ELM mode of vCenter server, which allows me to have kind of multi-tenancy for the workload domain. So if I have to have VCD, I can have. If I don't have to have VCD, I'm fine with that. But I can grow up to 24 customers, 24 workload domains in a one VCF instance based on an isolated workload domain, right? So that's another flavor of an architecture that you can think about. So there is one management component for
Mm-hmm.
all the 24 customers,
Yep.
and you are managing it for them.
Yep. Well, then what's isolated about the isolated domain? It's its own vCenter then, and it's on its own, or when you say isolated, it's just one customer per workload domain.
Correct. I think if
Oh,
you
okay.
if you remember, each and every workload domain, when you create it, it requires to have a SSO, single sign-on.
Yes.
Right.
Oh,
So
I see. So so you've got a separate single sign-on mechanism for that.
exactly. By
Very
default
cool.
is vSphere.local, which is typically management SSO. Either I can join that SSO or I can say, hey, I'm customer one. I need to have my own SSO. I'm going to say girish.sso. Then I'm going to have another workload domain, bob.local, all right? Something like that, or eric.local, depending on that. And three of us, we will not have visibility of each other, though we are managed by one same VCF instance.
That's nice. I do a lot of security and compliance things, and the rest of my day job, and a lot of breaches, a lot of attacks come through identity providers. There's been a lot of focus on isolation there, and so this is actually really, really good news. That people can have that isolation, but it's not. It sounds like it's not a big pain for the providers themselves, the service providers themselves, to set this up. It's a little bit more, but maybe you could tell us about that a little bit. Is it easy to do?
Absolutely, I think it is easy to do, and I think being a part of the Broadcom mantra is very clear. Make it simple to not only buy the product but also consume it as well. And I think that's where the mantra is coming from the top. Leadership is make it easy. We want to make sure that all our solutions now moving forward will be consumed, right? So we'll talk more about how we are moving to VCF.future. I can't take the number here, but it's a VCF.future. We'll talk about that.
Talking about moving forward.
Yeah. But it is easy.
Well, we mentioned Eric. Hang on just a second. Eric, welcome back. We've continued the conversation a little bit without you. I'm sorry about that. But
no, that's all right. Are you all right? Can you hear my audio okay?
Yep.
Yeah,
all right,
you're all right. You're a little soft, but it's all right.
That was the end of my 2011 Mac. I've been running on that guy forever. And just last week, the battery did I'm not going to charge anymore, and I totally forgot about that. And so I plugged in this new rig I have, I plugged in too many things to the USB port, and the Mac just went, sorry, I know you got a brick on me, but my charger can't handle that many things plugged into me, and I have no more battery, so bye. And
such is the peril of live streams, man. So
now I am on my new Mac, which is ARM, which is great, no problems. And I had set this up. I had just forgot that I needed to do that, right? So here we are, and Julia's telling me I should adjust my levels, which is fine.
You're better.
Yeah, I'm not even using the right.
Oh, now we can't hear you at all. Can you hear me? Hear me though?
Yeah, I can hear you, Bob. We're getting echo. Hello? Can you hear me?
We won't. Yeah.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yeah,
okay,
I'm back, but I'm just on my Mac mic. I'm not going to try to fix that one. But anyway, my last story was I was finishing the story on the VCF install, right? And what I discovered was you need a lot of memory to go through the VCF install, right? On these NUCs, you do need a lot of memory. Probably 96 gig, truth be told. And once you get it installed, then you can enable memory tiering, and you can use your SSD as a memory cache. But you got to get through the install before you can actually do that on a NUC, right? And so it's a chicken and egg problem, right? So there you go. That's my story.
Yeah, there are certain hidden parameters in Cloud Builder. If you put those parameters, then it will just use 3 hosts, and also it will deploy 1 NSX manager rather than 3 NSX manager, and you can have a small form factor as well. I'm sure William Lamb knows about it, but
yes. So we're spending some time to get that nailed down before the Connect conference, where we're going to have some lab tables in April. So we're working on that. But I always just figured it was VCF. VCF was NSX, ESX, and vSAN all married together. But there's more to it than that, right? So
and that's what Girish and I were talking about here. Is just all of this stuff, and he was starting to get into some of the futures of this stuff. We can't talk too much about it. There's a few months here, will
Yeah,
all will
yeah.
become clear. But the
We would assume that there's a new release coming down the road that we're not allowed to talk
we
about.
talked about 9
But
at VCF 9 at
sure.
Explorer last year, when everyone announced it and things like that. So that's not a surprise. But
it's
you know,
not a surprise.
but maybe we could talk about what cloud service providers. We've kind of gone over what the setup is there. I've asked a lot of probably dumb questions, basic questions, but this is a whole, as I was telling them, this is a whole area of, I just see the tip of the iceberg here, and there's a ton of we've got a lot of these service providers out there, right, Girish?
Yep. I think we have, like, we used to have about 4,500 providers, but now we are trickling down to top 500 or 400 that we are focusing on. And then there are different programs like white label and things like that. So they can join to the secondary provider as such and still be in that business as well, right? So we are not losing anything, but we are just trying to make a model a little bit different, more efficient, where we can focus with the top 100 pinnacle providers and then another 300-400 premier providers, and each of them, they have an ability to have those other thousands of small providers under the white label program, and then they can still do the business with their end customers. So that's one thing on a program side. But on an overall architecture side, like as I said earlier, right? So multi-tenancy is a key thing. Looking forward for VCF future release that is coming out soon, we'll have those features added and enhanced as we move forward with the newer releases of VCF in the future as well. They are basically trying to target more of advanced services like load balancer as a service, security and resiliences as a service, workload automation, depending on what kind of workload that customer may have, edge type of scenarios based on powered by VCF and VCD, private AI. A lot of providers are talking about, hey, AI is a little bit too bulky in my region, but GPUs are not. Can I have GPU as a service? Right? And that's what they're working on with us, and we are working with them to make sure that they are understanding what is available today. So our guidance is very clear. The new product is coming out, absolutely. Let us have a look when it is GA, when it is ready. But then, until then, what do? We want to make sure that the current product, VCF 5.2 and VCD 10.6, has a good longevity in terms of the stability of the product itself. So let us make sure that we scale your business, bring your older environment, bring your current vSphere clusters to the VCF 5.2, right? Bring them to VCF 5.2, VCD, if they are using VCD or otherwise, so that the transition becomes very easy to the future release of VCF, right? That's where we are trying to talk about and give them the guidance and bring them to the level where what is available today, what is the release and support of the current available stack is, and what is the future looks like, and where we can think about when VCF future is released in upcoming months or something like that. So it's a phase approach. We are working with the providers, helping them understand the gain of full understanding of capabilities of VCF 5.2 today, understand various features, understand the design consideration. One of the features that we talked about, isolated workload domains. Then second phase is basically work with them as newer release of VCF is a GA. Work with them, understand how it fits. Does it really fit into their bill in the current architecture? Or do they have to have a new service based on new VCF as a launching? And then slowly transition the current existing architecture to the newer architecture as we roll into the future releases of VCF.
Well, that's always a very powerful thing. I mean, it's nice to be able to upgrade things in place, but also sometimes it's just nice where you're upgrading things. You have to put up with decisions and architecture from whenever you built the environment the first time, like a long time ago sometimes.
Yep.
And starting a fresh one, the 9.0, maybe you do a fresh deployment, all that stuff. You can have newer architecture. Maybe you want to design your network differently, all of that stuff, and then the ability, is there do these providers have, because I know in base vSphere and VCF there's cross vCenter vMotion where you can move VMs across. Is that a possibility for these cloud providers, that they can do seamless moves of some of the stuff into new environments so customers don't even notice? Or is that something we're looking at?
We are definitely looking at, we are having conversations with engineering product management team members as well, just to make sure that whatever we have today available, what we call as a product that is used for the migration, called as a VMware Cloud Director Availability, VCDI, right?
Okay.
Can that be used, or can we use HCX? So,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
a lot of discussions are happening. We want to make sure that we provide as seamless experience as possible for our provider to transitions to the newer architecture, right? And that's where, as you said, right, I think first and foremost is don't disturb your current business, because if you impact your business, you're going to impact me and my business, right?
Yep.
As a Broadcom VMware. So no, I think we are working with them to make sure that we don't touch it, but at the same time, work with them very closely on exploring the possibilities of VCF 9 when it GA.
Mm-hmm.
The feature set that they are looking for, does it fit to their current business model, or do they need to have a new solution, or the service that they can ship based on VCF 9 now, right? So we are in a process of having those conversations with the providers. We are educating them. We are getting a feedback. We are passing on that feedback to the right uh, point of contact within the corporate here, within the engineering team members as well. So a lot of activities are happening, and a lot of great feedback coming from the providers, from the customer to us as well.
Good. Yeah, feedback is really important. We listen to a lot of customer stuff. In fact, I often tell people that you need to tell us if we're doing. We love hearing if we're doing something right, but if something's bugging people, you need to tell us so that we can fix it. We can't read people's minds, all that stuff. So it's really good for you to say that.
I have a couple questions here, as long as I've now managed to get everything back up and running somewhat here. One, Grish, is like we saw a lot of the partner ecosystem, and you touched on this, like 2,000, 3,000 down to 5 or 6, 700, blend a white label program for those other 1,000 that maybe didn't have a really big program to begin with. And I know VMware had a lot of riffraff that had accumulated over the 15-year history, and a lot of the Broadcom stuff was just to clean a lot of that up, and then if people are really interested, they'll come back and they're engaged with us, and so that's good. I guess what I want to get your opinion on is, I know at the beginning people were a little bit standoff on VCF, but then at the same time we saw kind of a migration back from cloud back to on-prem in the data center. And I'm wondering if the cloud providers are also seeing that, and then that's compelling them. Like we've noticed a lot of people are going like, oh, wait, well, I do want to be part of this. I am coming back to the idea that VCF is the way to go. And not only am I not pushing back on it, I'm actually giving it as kind of a bear hug, because I see data centers, coming back to VCF from cloud. And so therefore, cloud providers might also be an augmentation strategy to my data center strategy. I'm just wondering if you're seeing that in the cloud providers that you were working with now, whether they're kind of getting excited to come back to this versus us mandating they come back.
No, I think uh, they are fine with VCF and they are happy with VCF, right? But today, what they have been running traditionally, like a vSphere cluster with some other storage, so it is shift for them, right? And some of the providers are very easy and they say, okay, we get it, we are going to move it, right? And now, since they are paying for the VCF SKU, right? The vSAN is a part of it. They understand that really well. So they are in a position of like making that shift. They are also seeing a lot of customers that they are catering to are okay with full stack now. They do understand the value of the full stack. In the past, they used to have only vSphere cluster, storage, and direct networking, no NSX. Now
Right.
they do understand that, hey, I'm going to push these particular applications. I'm going to need a load balancer. I'm going to go and have a specific NSX type of requirements, networking requirements. I need to scale up and down rather than having anything physically installed into the environment and having an upgrade issue or having patching issues, right? So now the end customers are becoming more and more knowledgeable, and they are kind of very, very much easy for providers to deliver the services on VCF as a full stack.
Right. And then I guess there's just a natural, cycle of hardware upgrades, right? That, if you are looking, when is your next hardware upgrade going to happen? And how long does it take me to redesign some of my network components and my storage components? And so there's just a natural acceptance that should accelerate over time as they go either through storage refresh or network refresh, or compute
Yeah.
refresh. You can slot that in, right?
Yeah. So from my point of view, me and the team that I'm part of as a peers, we are having conversations as a workshops with all these top providers I mentioned about Pinnacle providers. Is basically not only to guide them what is coming, but also what it is that is going to impact in a better way for them to optimize their current environment. Could be a physical networking, could be the storage, could be the overall way to optimize load balancing, better way to optimize DFW the way they used to use in the past, right? So all the optimization workshops are basically happening as we speak, and partners are very much eager to hear, listen, and adapt to our recommendations to those designs and the changes of traditional business architecture and now new architecture with VCF. And they see a lot of efficiency in terms of
That
not
that was
only
going to be my follow-up. Like, is there cost efficiency when you
exactly,
get there? Then you can show a TCO at a lower price. The cost of managing your network fabric and your storage fabric, lower
mhm,
price, and therefore it translates to either more profit or lower price to customers.
exactly. I think we are at a point in time where when we have a conversation with them, it's simple ROI calculations that we do in front of them. We don't know what other vendors that they are using. For example, if they are using another load balancer which has a hardware based, upgrading that hardware to a newer hardware release of a load balancer takes time, money, efforts. But if it is a software based AVI load balancer, how effective, easy to scale up and down, including the patching and upgrade of that particular environment, very, very efficient and easy.
Well, and the configuration of that load balancer can just happen as part of the automation you speak of too, like it's not some external process that has to be, even if that's automatable, that's always got to be qualified and you got to keep track of that. Whereas it's just all one big bundle from us and
Yeah,
we've already done that work. We know it's
yeah.
going to work. So yeah, that's really powerful.
How is the health of CSPs in general? Are they seeing workload increase year after year? I mean, you hear about
Gotta
AI
be.
is generating more compute requirements, and I'm just wondering where they see their market going over time, irrespective of what we've done to them. Just wondering how the health of their businesses versus competing against Amazon and Azure and some of the big hyperscalers. I wonder how the CSPs are handling that.
I think CSP, let us take a step outside of the US, right? So if you go
Mhm.
to the other part of the world, like you go to Europe, you go to APJ, ANZ, even Latin America, or go to Canada, right? So the key is basically uh, for the CSPs to really say, hey, I am sovereign cloud compliant. So the environment that I have for you that I have built powered by VCF is a sovereign cloud compliant, which means that they can go through all the local compliances checks very, very easily, and they are sure that their data is local. Nothing
Yeah.
is going outside of the region, and that's what they are banking on compared to the hyperscalers, right?
Well, that's really important. I was going to bring this up with the AI stuff when we got off on a different question and topic, but AI especially, like with all the laws and that are happening, knowing exactly where your data is, having it be closer to your AI stuff, and even just these environments, maybe you don't want to bring this stuff all the way back out of a hyperscaler, but you don't want to run it. Maybe you can't run it in your local building or whatever.
Yep.
These cloud providers are a nice in between option where you get that sovereignty, you get that data locality, you get all of these options, but and you get fixed prices and things. You can't run up a giant bill. There's just a tremendous amount of advantages to these cloud providers.
And customers who are looking for an OpEx model for their IT, they jump onto the CSPs very easily and quickly. Now, what Broadcom has done, another good thing is about license portability, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There is
right.
there is an end customer, enterprise customer, bought probably say 1,000 cores of VCF, but in their own data center, they just consume 800 of them. So they still have 200 cores left. So now the license portability allows them to port those licenses onto the CSPs,
Oh, that's really cool.
right? And CSP has an advantage of not only providing and selling the hardware or the servers to run VCF on top, but also provide some additional services, managed services to the providers. Could be load balancer service, could be managing of the environment for them, could be any other.
You're beating me to my next question I was going to hit you
So
with, which was no, it's perfect. That's right, exactly what I was thinking. Like, so I would assume that some of the CSPs will get very good at a particular service type, like DR, right? You might have some CSPs that are just nailed DR. They've got a lot of capacity. They have regional DR, and that you would start choosing some CSPs based on what they add value to on top of VCF.
precisely, and I think it becomes like for end customer that hey, I don't want to go and buy and pay for the licenses because I already have the licenses. But then if they want to expand themselves onto the provider's environment, becomes very easy for provider to sell and upsell the licenses along with the hardware that they will deliver and add those managed services for them as well, even perform migrations as well, right? In fact, provide them the hybrid cloud type of architecture and move those virtual machines between their data center to the CSP data center seamlessly and very, very easily.
Yeah, and Bob, to close to your heart, I would like a CSP that I work with my rack in San Jose that I could just say, I want you just to do an audit on my ability to survive a ransomware attack, and I'd also like you to do an audit on high availability and an audit on disaster recovery. And I don't actually need to hit my workloads out there. I just need you to tell me it's all good, and then a way to survive if it happens.
And that's actually kind of an advertisement for some of the VCF stuff as well, because as part of the VCF stack, you get the operations stuff. You get that'll check that sort of thing. We've got dashboards for security controls and things, and so just even best practices in an environment and things, and all that. You just let.
Right. If it's I could just see CSP having like Frank Denham and staff type people that could come in and
for
just
sure,
know this
and
stuff.
Just let them be good at that, So if that's not a comparative advantage for me in my organization, then let somebody else deal with it, and I can focus on the application I'm trying to write or whatever services I'm trying to deliver as a business. Just let the IT be somewhere else that really knows how to do this stuff.
Yeah. Or kind of a hybrid model where I'm doing a lot of the compute myself because it's high volume. I'm trying to build models, a TensorFlow model, whatever. I don't want all of that compute in a cloud somewhere, but I do want to have some of these services defined that can help me run the whole IT org.
Right. Yeah, well, and budgetarily, flexibility like that, what Girish described, I think we got into a lot of this stuff while you were hooking up your new Mac and but you described a lot of flexibility around the deployment models of all of this stuff. And I think it lends itself really well to this because, I'm thinking about hyperscalers and the need, like if I want to try something new with an AI model or whatever, I have to go get budget for that, whereas, if I've got capacity, we can wedge that into what we've already paid for. There's a lot of flexibility here that in these models that I think is really, I think it's underappreciated, honestly.
Yeah. And also, I think coming back to the AI topic, right? I think most of our CSPs have acquired GPUs already, and they are in a process of, productizing AI
Oh,
as a service, which
Mhm.
gives an end customer an ability to say, hey, you know what? I don't think so I can get the GPUs quickly enough in time, so I can go to CSP,
Yeah.
right? Train the model, get the model trained, do all whatever I want to do with the GPUs, and
yeah,
then basically bring that back model for the overall consumption in my on-prem as well. So gives
yeah.
them that hybridity of the environment very, very easily and drive the business requirements quickly rather than waiting on GPU deliveries.
Yeah, I think that
Rick,
IT guys like ourselves don't really understand the model, use case, but having spent some time with it now, it's like, yeah, you train your model. It's a model thing that you do for a few months or whatever the capacity you need to make a smart model for your business. Then you don't need that capacity. You don't need the GPUs to serve up your model, unless you're doing, real-time learning. They have some models that now do reasoning, but if you're not
Yeah,
on a reasoning model, you're just doing a standard model, then you use the capacity, give it back. You don't need to have all those GPUs sitting in your data center.
well, we're
exactly.
so early in the AI stuff that staying flexible, and some of the stuff, yeah, to your point, Eric, doesn't require GPUs all the time. You can do this on CPUs now, some modern CPUs, and staying flexible, being able to run it in places that power doesn't cost a ton, that's super cool too.
Hmm.
So I don't know.
It
I
reminds me of the electric car days where nobody wanted to buy an electric car because you just wanted to lease it for a few years because you
Yeah,
knew
just to
battery tech
see
was
what
going to keep
happens.
moving
Yeah,
far. Right. Exactly.
Or
Right.
maturity, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I think it's a good time. I think that we'll see this continue. One of the questions we always ask, Grish, is like, where do you see it going? What excites you for 2025? The rest of 2025. Obviously we're going to probably do a launch at some point here, so that's going to be exciting. Are you looking in the future beyond the next launch to say where do we see this stuff going a year or two from now? What are the big things that we might be looking at?
I think from a VCF point of view, if that's your question, basically, uh, as I said earlier, VCF today, it is a solution, kind of, all the products. They are becoming more and more native to the VCF future release, right? And you will see more and more refined version. You will see more and more capabilities being added to it. Real cloud experience for the enterprise customer and the CSPs that can leverage that particular capabilities within
Right.
the VCF as a single product in the future. And I think I cannot disclose more, but we will talk when the time
yeah.
comes as exactly what it means.
Yeah, yeah. There's certainly that makes sense. That better, more integration, better integration, more products that fold into that to just make this a holistic system. Right. That
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. Um, I'll talk a little bit about CPUs. So, one of the things that we're seeing is the acceleration of the CPU roadmap and the core count to the point where we think by Explore in Vegas in August, we'll see enough improvement in CPU count on the Nooks that we'll be able to run it no problem. Right, like
Mhm,
we're
mhm.
just right now in the February timeframe where we'll look at it. We're just right on the edge, and so I
Yeah,
think there's also this constant improvement of hardware cycles that are going to continue to make this easier and easier to do because the CPUs keep Moore's law keeps grinding away here, right? And so what we think is hard right now, a year from now, when you have you know 256 core
of
counts
course.
in
Yeah,
these guys, will just be like, oh, yeah, we just run that on my watch, right?
yeah,
Like if,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're going to see that happen.
VCF for watches. Yeah, coming
Right,
soon.
right, right,
No,
right.
no, no, no. Don't take me
No, no,
serious.
no. Don't say don't tell William that. Right. I missed because the power my Mac died. Grish, where do you reside? Are you in California, Palo Alto, or are you somewhere else?
Yeah, I am based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Cool.
Uh, I was hired to represent the TIME program in 2007 in Palo Alto.
Oh, nice. All right. So you've been here forever too. Nice. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm here always in the office all days. I
I,
like.
I, re- I remember seeing you in the prom cafeteria. I definitely remember
Yeah.
you were way younger. You were way
Oh,
younger.
hey, wait a second. Yeah.
So somebody
Yeah.
looked at my LinkedIn page the other day and didn't recognize me because I still have my 2006 photo on LinkedIn when I first joined the first year I was at VMware, which was 2006. And I said, "Yeah, I'm there, Eric Nielsen. You can go see me on LinkedIn." And they're like, "Oh, I don't find you." And I sent them a link, and they went, "Oh, we didn't know that was you. What
Even
happened?"
on, even on Broadcom badge that I have a picture that is as of 2007. Look very, very young. I have a lot of hairs on my head back then.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I didn't have
Time
any.
makes fools of us all. Yeah.
I didn't have
Yeah.
any
So,
gray in there.
so I like being here on campus. Why? Because I am surrounded by all the engineers here, all the leaders here, right? So it becomes very easy for me to have conversations from top to bottom to the individual level, and I can go and talk to an engineer and say, "Hey, what's going on in this?" So I can talk to the person who is writing the code. So what I say normally, I know the things which are not in product documentation, which are not in PowerPoint. So you talk to me.
Yeah, that's
I know
great.
something which is still work in the progress, sometimes hidden parameters, sometimes something which is different, which is not there that I can share with the team or the customer. I
You
love
know,
it.
I have a funny story about that. Like, so in the last year or so, everybody's back on campus now, and I'm up in corporate marketing up at the top of the hill, right? And so I'll walk down, and all the engineering teams are at the tables, and they sit by table by group, right? It's you could tell that's an engineering team, that's an engineering team. So now, because I'm a marketing guy and I have no fear, if there's a seat at one of these tables, I just sit down, and they all look at me, and they're like, and I just introduce myself. Hi, I'm Aaron Nielsen.
Yeah,
I work
yeah,
in
yeah.
marketing. Blah, blah, blah. What do you guys do? What? And we work on a SRM, or we work in, and we have a whole conversation, and it's really fun, right? But you have to break into the little core groups. But when you
Yeah.
sit down, they don't know what you're doing, but then you introduce yourself, and I said, "Tell me, what are you guys working on?" And then I get a whole story, and it's fun. It is great.
Extroverts scaring the introverts,
Yeah,
Eric.
well,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
but as
I
soon as
always
they,
enjoyed that too when I'd come and visit, like just having lunch, and Girish, what you're talking about, that feedback that you were talking about earlier, you establish a way to give feedback, and engineering often doesn't have context for some of this stuff
Exactly.
too. So, it just kind of closes the loop.
So I kind of create the opportunities for engineers to have a dialogue with the providers, kind of customers, and understand, right? So I'm right now also testing and validating the way we are building the new VCF with some providers ahead of the time because they have some key requirements. So I'm talking to the persons who are writing the code, fixing the code, building the new build, and testing that build as well, right? So those are the things that are good being on the campus, in my opinion.
Yeah, sometimes I just ask them, like, what's the hardest thing you've got working on? Like, what doesn't work? And it's fun. You get
Yeah.
you get some interesting things. And one of the guy was saying, yeah, we're opening 90 recs, right? Anybody that really wants a job, you have to have a lot of experience. But if you got some guys that are used to working in the kernel or working on these pieces, we're opening up some recs over here. So you get all kind of stories, and it's fun and it's good. And nothing like being on the campus. And I would say this year the campus is busy. Like it is ever since that's what I saw. The reason it was a necessity to drop into these tables because there are no chairs, there were no seats, there were literally I'm by myself. There was nowhere to sit, so I'm like, hey, I'm going to join you guys. You don't mind? So it is great. All right, so we live stream on V Barbecue, youtube.com/V Barbecue. We also live stream on the community LinkedIn page, I believe. So, question for you, because we do live stream on the V Barbecue. You live in Northern California. Do you ever do any barbecue? And if so, what's your favorite barbecue?
I think I do barbecue, but I'm a vegetarian, so I just use
You
some.
like roasting something on fire,
Yeah. So we have eggplant, we have all the vegetables, we have some stuff from India that we get it. So yeah, it's all good.
So I
What
do.
do you do with? Oh, Eric, can I ask a question quick?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
What do you do with eggplant? Do you marinate it? I'm still looking for a good use for eggplant.
Oh, we just put it onto the oven, basically, oven or grill, and then basically remove the stuff, and then basically put some spices into it. I can send you the recipe offline. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. I'm still puzzled by eggplant. It looks great, but what do I do with it? Anyhow, I'm sorry, Eric, to derail you.
No, that is that kind of the same place I was going. Like there's some good vegetables that you can do, and like what kind of seasoning do you actually do when you do them, right? Cumin or something else that gives it a kind of a kick, right? Yeah, spend that time. I do portobello mushrooms. Are you guys allowed to? Is mushrooms part of the fare for vegetarian people?
Yep.
Yeah. Those are wins there. You get a nice portobello and some. Well, cheese is an animal product, so maybe not cheese, but at least some portobello and.
Vegetarian is not vegan. Do you do?
Correct. Vegan is more tough.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
I spent about a week of my life trying to be a vegan. Vegetarian is better.
No. Better, yeah.
Well,
vegan. Hard though. Yeah.
Grish, thanks for being flexible. I know we took you through a couple of different topics here when we try to book you, but we want to have you on the show. We got you here, and it's been a good talk. I appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for covering and being a good man as always. And I'm gonna go make a portobello mushroom this weekend. That's what I'm gonna go for.
I'm hungry. I missed lunch, so thanks, Girish. This has been great.
Thank you, guys. Have one.
All right.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, have a great one.
Bye.